Okay, I'm back. We've already discussed the image of deity and how the image of God and deities. We talked about male and female deities, how the deity sort of will reflect the culture. We talked about hunter-gatherer, nomadic deities versus a agricultural deity. And by deity, I mean gods, goddesses, or whatever you worship. And I call it divine, whatever you call divine, and divine good for your people. So we've already talked about that. We've talked about where the deities were and some of the aspects of their personality and how some of them came forward. At least one of them came forward, and that's Yahweh, the God, the warrior God of the Hebrews, which was a and I'm gonna delve into that a little bit. It was a warrior god of the Hebrews as well as some of the other Semitic tribes who also had warrior gods because they had wars with each other. They were aggressive people. They had to be. They hunted. They were nomadic. They had a hard life in the deserts and going from oasis to oasis to village to village. They didn't have the tribes weren't very big because they would outstrip the carrying capacity of the land, so they had to be nomadic. They had to eat this land, go someplace else, eat that land for a while, then while they're eating over here, this one is growing back and replenishing. And that's how they lived. It was male dominated because they had the males hunted. The females stayed home, watched the kids, and gathered whatever they could. Traded, knitted, made things, for trade goods. And they lived kind of harsh. The deity that reflects that culture was among them. One of them was the Yahweh. I want to call it Yahweh. Some people call it God. Some people call it various things, but it's considered one of the one true God kind of gods. Some cultures they have polytheist, many deities that represent different aspects of nature. Many cultures have those, but some cultures actually had a singular God that represented all aspects within itself. They all have rules. In most cultures, the religion and deities involved are similar, like care for the sick, take care of your young, don't kill your own people, um, take care of your aged. Most cultures say take care of your aged, take care of mothers, take care of your kids, fathers, take care of your kids, um, take care of your family unit, cooperate to make the greater good of the village or group or tribe. They're all very similar all around the world. I once asked my mom, she was reading a book called The World's Religion, and I asked her which one was the best. I was well into my adult years. She already knew how I thought. And she said they all, she said, none of them are better. There's nothing in nature that says one religion is better than the other. There is nothing in nature that says one religion is better than the other. That was her answer that came out of her mouth. And she said the sun shines on the Chinese like they do the American. The Christian gets sick just like the Buddhist. The Muslim dies just like the Jewish person. So only difference is what man made. Nature hasn't made a difference in religion. So if you're gonna worship, then understand everybody's got the right and it equally credible when they talk about their divine spirit that they worship. Everybody's got the same credibility on it. So I had to take a quick sip of tea. So I'm back. Well, what I'm talking about is credibility. There's no deity that actually came forth and presented itself to humankind in a way that we recognize and all of us can observe and note at the same time, the same way, on the same day. It hasn't shown up in the sky and said, I'm here, I'm me, and this is it, and this is how I created everything. There you go. Nothing has done that in modern times where we all can witness at the same time. So, since that doesn't happen, we all speculate. I don't care how you got your speculation. Could be an ancient text, could be a divine dream, could be a divinely inspired word, could be anything. But unless everybody got it at the same time, then it's still speculation because you're the only one that felt that. You and your friends who say they felt it. So everybody's equally credible on the issue of religion, metaphysical teaching, the occult, the unseen world, all of that. All of those aspects that don't come forward and present itself because they're unseen and unobserved, then we're all equally credible no matter what we say. That's that's the way it is in a nutshell. So, when someone tells me they worship a dung beetle, I'm good. You are as credible as anybody that said that's got an opinion. You are as credible, and I'm going to believe in your dung beetle just like you do because I believe it exists. If you say that's a divine dung beetle, I'm good. I ain't going to argue with you. If you say that that bush over there is gave you whatever, fine. If you say that tree is divine, I'm good. My real beliefs are very much something like that, and I'll get to a thing what I call how I believe it works toward the end here. But first, I got to talk about where we are. So now I'm going to talking about we talked about the image of deity, how the Christian deity was usurped from the well, not well, I will say morphed from the Semitic appearance, where it was light brown, that is African and Arab. I'm sorry, Semitic, half black, half white, merged to be Arab or Arabian or Semitic or Hebrew. All of those are Semitic tribes. The Arabs are Semitic tribes. The Hebrews are Semitic tribes. Um, all of them in that region are Semitic. So I call them light brown because they're part African, part white. Uh, let's see, one part African, one part white, and another dose of brown. So I call them light brown. If you ever want to know what Jesus looked like, you might not be able to find a picture of Jesus, but you will find pictures and paintings of the people around Jesus during his time of his life and in that area. And that's a light brown male who would have had to sit on the back of the bus. Um, so this warrior god's appearance changed from this light brown appearance to this white man appearance, who's basically whoever the artist could corral into modeling form and sitting in these divine robes, these beautiful paintings of these people that were around the painter. If you were in Germany, you're going to paint people who look like you and call it God if that's what you want. Okay? So that's what the being that we call God looks like now in our time. And I say that's the mental virus that uploaded into black people's mind because we're real spiritual people. Now, even though I talk about I believe in everything, that's because I'm very spiritual, but I'm not religious. Religion is an institution and a political social structure um, that's built around a deity, a religious practice, and state of religiousness. Whereas spirituality is between you, your spirit, and whatever divine forces you believe in and work with and think about. I'm spiritual. I'm not religious. I link directly with whatever divine being I believe in. I say that Africans were primarily female orientated beings because they believed in creation and regeneration. And if you worship a female orientated being in Africa, then that's what you focused on to get the crops up, get the crops going, get the harvest in, get things growing and creating because you're agricultural. And it worked. This goddess did her work that in the Africans. They were fed, they were healthy. That's basically all any culture or society wants is their children to be healthy and fed. That's the only thing. That's if you heard a click. Sorry, I hit my headphone thing. If You analyze exactly why you're going to work every day right now. It's because you want your kids to be healthy and fed and sheltered and clothed. You got just the same necessities that human beings have always been trying to do and keep for their families. Africans had it in abundance, so much so people came and got it from 'em. So people who didn't have it came and got it from them and tricked them and messed with their head. But a part of how you mess with your head is uploading that virus, that mental virus. So um, I did more discussion on that in one of my previous recordings. What I'm going to jump into now, we talked about images of gods, I mean, in deity, and now I'm going to talk about gods, goddesses, and the divine, or elaborate a little bit more on it. When there's a goddess force, the way they work, there's usually a goddess and her consort, that is her boyfriend or her husband or whatever, but he's the male that plants the seed. He's also her gladiator, so to speak. When these people in Africa got these beings in Africa got usurped. They killed the male and they usurped the female, the goddess, and then they superimposed the um, male deity, the god, the one that we call God now. Africa began to decline. It declined with the beginning of the Islamic Empire. Christianity had already come, but Islam is what conquered it. And when you talk about the Islamic people, Muslims, Semitic people, um, prior to their among the well, let me say, I want to say prior, but among the gods that they had was this being called Mithra. M is a primarily a Semitic god called Mithra. Um, it was seen, and this is important to know, that this being was a Semitic male who was considered very handsome. Statues of him are usually depicted with him got a bull by the horns, killing the bull. Sometimes he's killing the bull by breaking its neck, sometimes he's stabbing it, but he's killing the bull on the front end. The story is that Mithra the god and the snake, the white snake, mind you, the white snake and Mithra the god decided to go kill the black bull god. Sometimes it's a bull, sometimes it's a bull god. The black bull god. So you got the Semitic god and the white snake, a white male snake. They wanted to drink the essence out of wanted to drink the blood out of the bull's testicles so that they can get his strength. It's a black bull, white snake, Semitic god. So they wanted to drink his the juice out of his testicles, but they had to kill him. They were planning to kill him. And so when Mithra attacked it on the front end, the snake was supposed to attack it too and poison, da da da, and help kill it. But instead, while Mithra was killing it on the front end, the snake bit into the testicles and drank the testicle fluid to get the strength. So essentially, Mithra got betrayed by the snake. Now, if that was a dream, the way you would interpret it is this: you, the Semitic man who is half black, half white, has decided to kill the black man, which is a bull. A black bull is considered a phallic symbol for a black man, just like the snake is considered a phallic symbol. But a white snake would be a phallic symbol for a white man. So that's the black man and the white man and the Semitic man. The Semitic man is a mixture of the two. So, whenever you deal with Semitic people or Semitic politicians, understand that these are people in conflict with themselves. You don't know where they're going to come out because this white snake, attacked the bull and betrayed the Semitic man. They were both going to betray and kill the black man. This is it. That's an internal conflict. That's dissonance. That's somebody who's not quite trusting himself. He's in conflict with himself. So that's a different kind of God, but that tells you how someone might think. So just be aware of that. Let me drink another sip of tea, so I'll be back in a second. Relation to deity is much like that. Depending on what kind of culture you have, that's how you're going to relate. How you and your deity are going to relate to the surrounding world and other people. I'm saying about that divided, that conflicted mentality is what came to Africa when the Muslims came. So we were in, we adapted the Muslim view, the ones that became Muslim, and what they did was say that any child that's a descendant of the Muslim people, Muslim male that married into that family, they're thereafter going to be Muslim. I mean, they're after going to be Arab. So a lot of Africans would call themselves Arab or Muslim and consider that okay. I say you need to get rid of not only the Christian God but the Muslim God, because they're still not the African goddess or the spirits of the land people or any other original African deities. And in my mind, the original African deities did their work for black people. They did their job. This one, the Muslim God and the white God, is not doing their job for black people, nor are black people its highest priority. Their highest priority are the people that look like them. So the white God, highest priority is the white people. The Muslim God's highest priority is Muslim people or Semitic people. Black people can't afford to be worshiping gods that don't put them as their highest priority. So essentially, we're feeding other people's deities while they while the deity in turns give all that fuel to their own people. And so that's why we're falling back and they're going ahead. And think about that for a second or two. Our catch 22 is that we think that we'll be disobeying God or our God because we're not doing what it says when we don't worship it, and we get stuck behind that weak faith thing. The story of Job is about weak faith. When we think that we'll fail the test of faith if we turn away. I say you're, well, I'm not going to say how silly I think you are if you don't turn away, but I do think you're silly if you don't turn away, because this God is, in my mind, abusive to you and to me. So I turned away a long time ago. I'd recommend you do too, because we can't go forward until we do. Black people will keep doing what I call fighting instead of winning. That is, you can fight all day long, but that don't mean you're going to win. You're just going to keep fighting, and that's what we're doing now. We keep fighting. Christianity and Islam took us to the point where we are now, and it worked well. We converted and did all the little things they said to do to blend in and all of that. But right now it's a drag on us. Um, we can't go forward until we get that image out of our head and stop worshiping it, because if we long as that's there, that means we can't disobey the white man. We always got to worship and revere the white person, and that is a action to our detriment. We cannot afford to revere white people. They're not reverable. They are quite the opposite. We're not able to look at them objectively because we keep seeing God. And that's our catch 22, and that's the virus. We keep seeing God or the image of God or something similar to the image of God in our brain, and we can't ever be totally disobedient to him. Even when we're doing all kind of stuff, we sabotage ourselves, so we make sure we have to come back. We have to be in their lap, in their embrace. That ain't nowhere we want to be. That's not going to help us. It's going to hurt us. It is hurting us. We've got to be able to disobey and go forward on our own. Without that being, we can't afford to tie our fate with them. Can't afford it anymore. So that's why I'm saying Christianity has outlived its usefulness for black people, because we can't be with them. They have a whole different fate. and we've got to cut our losses and get the heck out of Dodge fooling with them because we can't do anything else for them. We tried to teach them, tried to help, tried to do all this other stuff, blending in, doing all the things. We did our part. It's not working. They keep reverting back to the monstrous beings they are. By monsters, I don't want to call it savage or animalistic and all of that. I'm doing a disservice to animals. So I'm going to say monstrous. And they're getting worse, and they will get worse until they have consequences. So, and we've got to get rid of the virus. And Christianity is a virus. It makes us not be able to save ourselves. All creatures in the world is able to understand survival and self-preservation and preservation of its young. We are so distorted we don't even protect our young, at least not from white people, aka God. In our mind, it has a right to destroy our kids. I say no. I say no. So, relationship to a deity. I just discussed that. I'm not going to go back into that. But I will talk about the earth. This deity, the Christian God, has an adversarial relationship to earth in all things, no matter what. Um, Even if it's farming, it does it in a way that's counterproductive so that it has to pollute and distort what's natural. The earth and all this dirt is designed to grow stuff. It does not need people's help with chemicals and all kind of other stupid junk that's polluting. It's designed to grow. We would not have evolved to this level if we weren't able to sustain ourselves on what the planet produced. We were doing it before the white people came out the caves. We had it well in hand. I personally say they came out of the caves too soon because they came out of the caves before they were able to understand the balance that's natural to the earth. That is, they were still using, but they used at a rate that was too fast for it to reproduce, and they didn't come to balance. All the other cultures and people of the world did, so they were able to feed themselves based on the amount that the earth could produce and reproduce. They can consume it at the level that it can produce it. Europeans didn't. In fact, they were having a very hard time. That's why I'm saying their God looked out for them because it helped them discover the new world right while they were on the brink of extinction. They had plagues, they had cold, they had cruel people who would let you starve in the street while they ate well. Them talking about the lords and things. Oh heavens, don't let me get started on European culture before they discovered the new world, as they say. But up there in North Europe, them people were having a hard time and they were hard to live with. If you ever read, say, Germanic literature and their books, they always describe themselves as living in um, misery, quiet desperation. They Even the middle class folk were still miserable. Even when they had stuff to eat and sleep and drink and all of that, they were miserable. They stayed miserable. They were always angry and bitter and in despair. And that's because they weren't nice folks. Nobody around them said, "Oh, I'm sorry for your pain." And they didn't reach out for each other. They always focus inwardly on their own pain and not look at other people's pain. They always was mad because nobody saw their pain, yet they didn't reach out for anybody else's pain, and offer a comforting hand, a word. So everybody was just closed off and angry and bitter and mad. And they wrote book after book after book about that, story and essay and poem and all of that. So these were unhappy people, even so I'm saying, even if they had stuff that they needed, they were still unhappy. If you read the narratives of the slave owners, they weren't happy. They were mad at the slaves because the slaves will crack jokes with each other. They sitting off to the side mad at them about that. Because they just weren't happy. Right now, to this day, if a white person is around a bunch of black people working, they think you're not working just because you're acting silly. But black folks do that. That's how we act. We act silly with each other. White people do not. If they hang out with us enough, they learn to act silly, but in their natural state, they don't. They don't. I went and looked. They don't. Too much fun make them mad. Yes, too much fun makes them mad. But in this relationship to the earth with Christianity, the earth was also an adversary. But the earth is also a symbolic black woman. So they have an adversarial relationship with the earth. While they plunder its resources, they always try, yeah, they plunder its resources and abuse it. Um, Old English literature called had this concept called the corruption of innocence. The corruption of innocence. That is, they would take something pure and pristine and dirty it, soil it, destroy it, rape it, plunder it, whatever they can do to pollute it. They're still doing that. Some of the early things when they talk about the corruption of innocence was pedophilia. They delighted in that. They wanted to corrupt this America. They had a concept called the noble savage, talking about the Native Americans are that is an uncultured person but had a good heart and noble and moral virtues. And they call them a noble savage who would do the right thing because they're clean and pure and innocent. They delighted in corrupting them. They delighted in corrupting Africans. They delighted in corrupting children. These are and some of these were the religious leaders. The religion of that time supported that. They had books, and I have a book on my shelf called The Rape of Paradise. That is, all of the places of the world were like paradise to the Europeans who was living in a form of hell among each other. It was cold, it was humid, the land didn't hardly want to support the food that they needed per year, it couldn't support the population. They lived in such a way that, like for example, when they did live in houses, they lived in wooden cabins who had walls, what they call it, I think it's called wallow or wattle, which is a mixture of mud, manure, and straw. They would, like a log cabin where they stack up the logs, but in between the cracks, they would put that wattle in there. And these are the kind of places that the peasants lived in around the discovery of America. So, a person who's living in a dung hut made with twigs and wood is going to America getting mad at a Native American living in a teepee. So you're living in dung, but you're going to criticize somebody living in a teepee, which is animal fur made into a tent for nomadic people who was going to leave their land and go to another hunting ground so that this land that they're on can replenish itself for the time they circulate back, by the time they circulate back to it. So they nomadic. Some of the Native American people nations were nomadic. Some were agricultural, just like everybody else in the world. But people living in Wattle would go to Africa and see you in a grass hut, living in a hot area, and gonna criticize you for not being civilized or not being refined. I'm saying, no, you don't have room to talk. And I'm gonna talk more about room to talk and on another tape. So that's what I'm saying about the earth. White people have an adversarial relationship. The rest of the people of the world didn't. They had a cooperative relationship. The earth supported them in their cooperative relationship. That's why it was still that's why it was still pristine when the Europeans found these places. People were making decisions to help support the earth's ability to replenish itself and stay pristine and healthy. Whereas the European came and said, no, 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 we can't do that. We've got to do progress and civilization. So they proceeded to abuse it and destroy it. And so we've got pollution from everything from air, water, earth, us, each other, and everything bad. Among the things we could do to fix the earth problem is grow food where the earth said it wants to grow at. Some places the earth doesn't want to grow the particular crop. Plant the crop that the earth wants to grow in particular places. The rainforest is no place to grow wheat to feed cows or grasses. Europe is where you feed those cows. The Midwest plains is where you feed the buffalo. There were buffalo everywhere, but they got killed off because, well, white people wanted to do something else, and they did. So, just go back to where the earth said it wants stuff to grow at and grow it there. Don't grow where you want it or where you think you want to grow where it's supposed to be. Then the earth will support you. Same thing about people. People need to stop doing stupid junk and back up off, dial some things back. And religion, well, and understand that you're supposed to cooperate with the earth and not be at an adversarial relationship with it. Now, about the divine, how I actually think it works as we talk about gods, goddesses, devils, demons, and all of that. Well, it's about negative and positive energy and divine energy and spiritual energy and energy in itself. There is an unseen world. There is a metaphysical world. There is an occult world. There's all of that. And everything that we talk about when we speak of religion, that's what we're meaning. And earlier on, I said that if you say there's existence of one deity, then you can see the existence of all the rest. Whether or not there is actually a being that's got these personalities and things and features I describe, maybe, maybe not. But I do know this: there is an unseen force. It is unseen and it's powerful, but it can be negative and positive. It goes where you direct it. It's energy that's undirected. So, if you believe in a deity and you direct that energy to make that deity exist in your mind, then it exists. If you believe in heaven or hell and all that other stuff, that's going to be too. I say this, that if black people are spending their time in a Christian church, they're feeding the Christian God. That energy that you're in your prayer, your belief, your feelings, your love, your joy for this being, that's food to it. That's what it eats. Black people are powerful enough to feed and energize any deity. But whatever you feed has got to be working for you. This one isn't. We are feeding the deity that's empowering the people to destroy us. That's why we can't be a Christian anymore. That's why you need to go to some other deity that looks like you and looks exactly like you, not a light brown version, not a white version, nothing. It's got to be you with your naturally kinky hair, born of the African sun. It's got to be like you. That's what you got to energize and empower so that it can work on your behalf. Right now, you're starving it and feeding theirs. They're using their energy to hurt you and hurt me, hurt our kids. We can't afford that. So that's step one of what we got to do. We got to be aware of who we feed. That's going to be our step one, is stop feeding theirs and feed our own. especially since theirs is hurting us. Their deity is not helping us. And I'm not talking about the one in a million, and I mean a million, one, the very few black people who are managing to rise to the top. Those are just illusions. If we can't move as a collective, it don't count. We got, as long as we got starving and hurting people, it's not enough. It's not good enough. We got to do better. Got to get something better than that. Right now, it's unworthy of you and your prayers and your belief and your tears and your all that food you feeding it. Whereas it's taking all of that, empowering people who are shooting you. I don't think so. That's not what I'm gonna go in. And so, yeah, that test of faith don't work for me. I need something better than that. So that's the deal with the deities. And so, what do we do now? Some things we can take. If you do like the written word of Christian values, and if you honestly do like the values that are in the Christian church, like the Ten Commandments, honor your father and mother, da da da, do unto others like you do unto yourself, fine. I once looked at a TV commercial and I said it's going to be real hard to get black people off of Christianity because they got too heavy of an investment in it. Too heavy of an investment in it. The Christians got their little church bus, they got the church, they got the pastor this, they got the new choir robes with the logo, they got the website with the logo, they got the this with the logo and all of that other stuff, but that with their name on it. That's a lot of money invested in the Christian church, all them buildings and things. And I say fine. But you got to modify that and you got to get rid of the virus so that the Christian church, if you're going to be going, is going to be working for you. But it can't be the same Christian church that the white people go to. Can't be nothing like that. Can't be affiliated with them. Can't even do nothing with them. Can't touch them. So you got to call it another name if you must. Church of, I wouldn't even call it a church, but that's me. But if you're going to call it a church and do that stuff, then do this. Every week, have some of the junior members, the teenagers and young kids, pull focus on a picture or one of the religion paintings that's familiar to you all in the church, and do a 15-minute or a half-hour presentation, PowerPoint with slides, post it that everybody can see, or whatever they think, proxia, whatever that is, up there, those slides. Do a presentation where they talk about, with the red pen and with the red light and everything, where they talk about who's on those paintings, who they really were, and who painted it and when. So that you can stop thinking that that's a picture of God and know exactly who that is. So everybody in the church will know that that's Bob, who lived down the street from the painter, who get drunk every night, beat his wife. Well, he got Bob to pose for him on that painting, and that's what they did. They painted that painting. If you notice this on this side, that's his dog from the neighbor's house, but that dog ain't really alive. Or whatever's going on in the painting. That's his niece right there. She accidentally did this, da da da. Do a seminar on that painting and the people in it. That's step one. You can do that. Have the kids take a week to prepare the presentation, and then focus on, even if it might take several weeks, to focus on one character at a time, but get those images of what's holy and divine corrected. So spend some time there. If you got statues in your church, say do a presentation on who the artist was and what it was and who did it and how. And then, even if you have to, if you don't want to get rid of the statue, then put that presentation, post it beside it, so that they can have the full history of that piece of art. That's one thing you could do. um, Replace those pieces of art with art of black faces that look like you, not straight haired black people in the Middle East, but people with kinky hair. Just like the Europeans turned the image of their God into white people, you can turn the images of your God to black people. Same thing. No, don't, if you feel a balk at that or resist that, understand that's part of how the virus works. Push it away. Be aware of it, and then you can pinpoint it, and then you can push it away. If it still keep messing with you, then you got to haul off and knock the heck out of this divine being that's white. Haul off and knock the hell out of it, because it's got to feel your rage, and you got to make it feel your rage. And then put your black God up there on your pedestal and worship the heck out of him. Worship him big time. If that is, if you're gonna still be a Christian, then paint your God black. Don't pay any dues to the Christian church. If you have to, change the name. They want to take that building away, fine. You can have a cyber church. That is, everybody link in once a Sunday morning and do it from your house. Whatever you got to do. That is, if you want to still be a person that's going to follow the Christian values. Christian values are not limited to Christianity. Don't get that twisted. Always remember that. Those are simple values. Those are values to live by. In fact, if you come over to the goddess side, you're going to have some more values that are stronger than stranger than that. Because Christian values will let you get away with too much junk. Now, that's among the things that we do now. If you that is if you still want to be a Christian. Now let me talk about the goddess a little bit. I chose to go with the goddess because I'm a black female. I want to worship something that looks like me. I trust that. I trust me. I love that. So she gets my energy, and I'm glad to give it to her. Um, some of you might say, well, why hasn't the goddess got us out of that if she's all that? And I say, why should she? You haven't built a temple to her. We haven't done anything to praise her or sing about her. I, I believe in her, and I'm doing what I can. And part of this is talking about her. Part of this is what I can. And and whatever little ritual I want to do, and whatever statue I want to look and sing and think of as a goddess. I painted my picture. I want to paint some more. I'm just doing my little thing, but that's not enough for her. I'm doing. I'm happy that I feel her in my heart. Oh, I'm so happy I feel her. I feel like I saw her, and it was beautiful. It was true. I had a moment when I was crying because I felt her. I felt her and saw her face, and I felt the divine, and I relish it and cherish it. But for other people, if you ain't done nothing and ain't been on her side and looking at her, then she's not going to do that. She was usurped. To usurp a deity means that the people had a change of heart. That's an unforgivable sin. We weren't faithful to her when she was doing her job. Remember when I was talking about how evil comes in through the cracks? That is, in African culture, there were African people who were ready to overthrow the goddess and participated in her usurpment. That's how evil comes in through the cracks, and it came in through the cracks, and Islam conquered it, and then Christianity, and Africa fell. It fell because of us. That was our unforgivable sin. We let people usurp our goddesses and our people and our divine spirits that were doing their job, feeding the people and making sure our kids were healthy. So, if you want to know what we did wrong, that was our first wrong turn. Until we backtrack and fix that back and do some abasement, we won't come out of it because we're not ready. And subconsciously, we keep sabotaging ourselves because we know we're not ready. So we got to get past that. How do you do that? What does that mean? Well, first off, let's talk about how the goddess ain't going to help us again until we prove ourselves to her. We haven't done that yet. For example, if she's a black lady, then she'll do the same approach I would under the same circumstances, and that's easy to figure out. For example, if you're a black female, right? You have a little company that you're running, that you work for somebody, that you run a little company. You got the stuff and the people and everybody together. You making sales out the yin yang. You got your staff going good, got everything going well, and it's beautiful. You running your shop like you're like gangbusters. You got you making notes, people, you're being noticed, people are praising you, and you got sales, got the best staff, got the best this, got the best that, and it's because you put it there and you made it happen. That's your work. But there's a few little things that could be better, like some kind of new shoe policy or something stupid, little bitty things that could have been better. A white male comes in and gives your people a bill of goods, and you get overthrown and put out, and he gets hired in. And him and his people come in, taking over the shop. It's not what it was. They consume everything. This person takes all your resources out of your shop and send them all to his other friends. He's sending the making the his people come in and take over the best places to work. By the window. They done took over the water cooler, took over the kitchen, took over the little plants that look cute around the place. They done took over sales. They ain't selling as much because it ain't as good. Matter of fact, they may sending it all to hell. But what the heck? They still getting the praises and getting the focus and getting the dedication. Okay, you see your people how they're suffering, but you're gonna let them because they betrayed you. You might slip them $1 here and there, but you're not gonna bail them out until they vote you back in, even if they're in hell. You ain't gonna bail them out. You're not gonna. You're not. If you've been usurped, you will not rescue people who betrayed you. So, as black people, we essentially betrayed our goddesses and our spirits of the land, gods and goddesses that were in Africa. We won't get back on track until we do some abasement and begging and praising and filling them in our heart again and feeding them so that they'll have the strength to feed us. So that's what we do now. That's what we do now. So I've just made that tape, and that's my step one. There's some more to go, but that's what we do now, and that's why Christianity's a problem. Bye.